All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon, the Daylight interviews. Yes, we have managed to pull it off this week after last week's scheduling mishaps. And indeed, joining us this week is Korzdin of Fission Ogre.
You're
I
lucky the
gotta
check went
think.
through. Just
I gotta I gotta think about your company name because it's doing one of those wordplay things.
yeah, it doesn't come up too often anyway. Usually we're just the Relentless Frontier guys.
Right, but we're being proper and formal in this bit, so it comes up here.
Ah, shucks.
Anyway, speaking of such things, how we like to get started properly is we like to get to know the people or person, depending on circumstances, behind the games, the studio, and all of that business. And we ask this particular question: what got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
Uh, well, I've been into video games since I was 5, probably. I started with Doom, so kind of into boomer shooters ever since I was almost born. And then as far as getting into game design, ever since I was a young child, I would design kind of tabletop modules or try to get into Doom modding and Red Faction level design.
Okay, I gotta admit, I wasn't expecting that game to come up.
I play a lot of
Right.
shooters.
True, but Red Faction hardly ever gets name checked by anyone in terms of talking about vintage FPS games.
It's a shame because it's pretty solid.
It's not only solid, it was trying to do something different. Oh, something that is not really done even to this day, and that's the whole geomod stuff.
Yeah, I think before I made maps for Red Faction, I would actually play around with the geomod and just kind of blast holes in the. There was that like glass house demo map,
Mm-hmm.
and then like the first few maps in the mines, you're kind of allowed to blow up whatever.
Yeah, granted, I don't think the geomod technology really coalesced until Gorilla.
Oh
But
yeah,
that's mainly because Gorilla is the best game in the series.
yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. But anyway, so clearly your roots are in the FPS mod development scene, which is not surprising given the game we're going to talk about. But as far as the question here is, at what point did you make the jump into, making a commercial product?
Well, right around 2020, a big thing happened that kind of shifted the way most people live their lives. I suddenly had a whole bunch of spare time on my hands, and so did 2 of my friends, Dr. Destructo and Horatio Svetlana. Also, Stephen and Grant. That's their actual names. We've known each other for probably 15 years at that point, and we had wanted to kind of manually break our way into the game industry. None of us have any like game design degrees or anything. It's just the best way we can get in is to just make something. So we kind of started making the design document right around 2020, and then 2021 we had the first build.
That's a rapid amount of time, honestly, in terms of game development, especially for your first project.
Yeah. So one of the cool things about GZ Doom engine is very fast to prototype things. You have a level designer essentially made. We were using Ultimate Doom Builder. You have an engine that's mostly functional, and you can just mod values. But once you start getting to the polish process, that's what's been taking us the longest period of time. because we're trying to make the game do a lot of things that GZ Doom was not really designed to do.
Yeah,
So
I think I remarked in our impressions video that this game honestly comes across as more Quake than Doom.
yeah. It's like Quakey. Red Faction is kind of an inspiration. The movement itself is inspired by Warframe and Satisfactory, of all things. Mostly with the crouch slide jump. So
I don't think I've ever played Satisfactory, so I don't know how to connect that to this.
I've seen it played, but I've never actually played it personally.
it's a first person factory building sim. It's
Right.
not really a shooter or anything like that, but it has surprisingly good like movement mechanics. Mostly because there's a crouch slide and a crouch slide jump, and you can get like power legs that let you run faster and jump higher.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, kind of a weird source for like FPS movement, but works.
I mean, inspiration is inspiration, I suppose. Yeah. And I suppose going back to just GZ Doom in general, what made you want to use this as your development source, as opposed to say anything from Unity or I'm trying to remember that the Quake engine fork that's being used for some modern boomer shooters.
See, we were supposed to make this pretty quick, but we ended up we liked it, and then we spent a whole lot more time on it than expected. So this was supposed to be just a first commercial game to kind of send through the ropes. See, like, okay, what's it like to upload to Steam and manage a game like that? How to manage a community. So it was just basically Relentless Frontier is a crash course in game design for us. And me and the programmer, we were both already familiar with the engine, so we could get started really fast.
Like, so writing what you know,
pretty much,
more or less. Makes sense.
Although at this point we've been messing around with Godot and Unreal just a bit.
Is that more for other projects, or are you looking to port this to another engine?
It's going to be for different projects. Because Relentless Frontier, we plan on releasing the 1.0 of it in about 1 to 2 years.
Yeah, I think that's what your early access notes denote. And I suppose that begs the question, how many people are working on this?
The first episode was made by 3 people. It's me, I'm the map designer, sound designer, texture artist. I did the 3D models and a few of the other graphics and a little bit of programming, mostly just to tighten things up. Steven is our programmer. He did the bulk of the programming work. And then Grant is our sprite artist. He comes from more like a traditional animation background, so he had to learn kind of how to do a sprite style for this game, which resulted in some interesting looking sprites. They're not actually that retro. It's more of just a like medium, I guess. And now we've kind of doubled up. Now that we've released a game, we have any amount of like money. We've added a few more people, 2 additional programmers, and a storyboard. So someone to actually work on the writing to kind of shore up a lot of the story's weaknesses right now. And unfortunately, our primary artist Grant, he has moved on to. I'm not exactly sure what he's doing, but he's moved to a different state, and he's probably not doing computer stuff for a while. So he's at least out of the rest of Relentless Frontier. And to replace him, we got Santiago or Metal Invader, who's the lead designer and artist for Hellslinger.
I always wanted to try that game, but I'm not good with rhythm games.
Oh, that's Metal Hellsinger. Yeah, that's a very unfortunate thing about the name of Hellslinger is it's very close to Hellsinger.
Yeah.
This is another shooter on the GZ Doom engine.
Yeah. That is, I mean, there are so many boomer shooters out there these days that it is hard to keep track of them all.
Yeah, these are Furry Babes in Hell is probably the main identifier.
Yeah.
And I'm actually working on that project too. Producer, sound designer, and a little bit of a mapper. I'm going to be doing the blockouts for the first map.
So I suppose that beckons a question. What are you doing to keep things consistent, given that you're switching out artists midstream, more or less?
Our previous artist has helped the replacement artist a bit with style tips to kind of maintain the style. Also, Santiago draws in kind of a comic booky style anyway, so the transition has been pretty smooth so far.
Well, that's good.
We're also lucky enough that the next episodes are going to have new factions of enemies, so hopefully any differences are covered up just a wee bit when you're going from an alien bug race to a energy cult.
How far along is episode 2 at this stage?
It is in the concept stage. We have a map list. We have an enemy list. We're still writing out the story to it, but we have a basic outline. And we're waiting until the outline is completely finished before we start work. In the meantime, we're shoring up episode 1 and adding a few new game modes.
Okay. So you are keeping busy while that's being gestated.
Oh yeah, we got something cooking right now that's pretty good. We have a score attack mode that kind of it's an alternate game mode where you're trying to get a high score, and you have a combo meter that rises as you kill enemies, and if you don't kill anything for 6 seconds, it goes away, which results in a kind of hectic, like you're trying to speed run the map kind of situation.
Right. So to clarify, is this an actual score attack or is this a horde mode?
It's the original maps that you are trying to get the highest score in. A horde mode like mode is coming out later.
Okay, so two different things there.
Yeah, the horde mode's actually going to have custom maps too, and kind of a different progression style.
Mm-hmm.
I can't talk on it too much because we have a basic idea of it. We haven't actually implemented anything from it yet. Whereas the score attack mode is like 80% of the way there.
Right. I suppose before we dive into side modes that have yet to be built any further, we should dive into what the main portions of what is there. And that is, what is Relentless Frontier? Who are you? What are you doing? Why are you shooting everything in sight? What is the Omni-X?
You are Noah Gansky. He was. Hang on, let me actually get my thoughts together here. Start from the very start.
In the beginning, there was
in the very beginning, you were an engineer. Inventing a new device to rapidly deconstruct and reconstruct things called the Omnistruct. You presented your invention to a planetary governor to try to get sponsored. That governor disassembled himself. You tried to reassemble him, but he got reassembled as a lifeless husk, and you got arrested for the murder of a governor. So now you are in the Procyon Penal Legion, which is essentially a high hazard prisoner army, kind of like they go on suicide missions a lot. And after about 7
You
years,
mean like some kind of
Suicide Squad, maybe. Hi, Dr. Nick. Oh yeah, hey, that's Prime and Metal Invader. Prime is one of our composers, and Metal Invader is our new sprite artist.
Oh man.
Hi, guys. Anywho, back to the story. So after about 7 years of suicide missions, Noah is getting pretty close to actually earning his freedom. Just needs a few more missions. This mission pops up. It is a planet that is under siege from the Ardent Convergence, which is an energy cult. Nothing he hasn't dealt with before. They gear up, go there, and right away something's off. None of the communications on the planet is working. And a series of giant tentacles come from the planet, wraps around the ship, and brings it down. Everyone scatters from it. So there's kind of landing pods everywhere. You end up alone, separated from your pod. You kind of just plummet to the ground, and you're knocked unconscious for several hours, and you wake up. And then from there, everything in the game happens.
I see.
And then we had donuts.
And then along came Zeus.
Well, I gotta admit, that's more setup than I was expecting.
Yeah, it's totally fair because a lot of that setup isn't mentioned anywhere yet. The way we plan on revealing a lot of that is through data logs. We're kind of trying to keep the voice cast a bit small for now, so we're not going to have a whole bunch of people talking to Noah, at least not until episode 2. So it's a story that's there if you look for it. Otherwise, you run forward, shoot bugs, jump around.
I mean, I gotta imagine that the audience for this game is pretty used to audio logs at this stage. I mean, or data logs if you don't go the voice route.
Yeah, and then that's basically why they are data logs. It's really cheap to write up text. It's a bit more expensive to.
Everybody still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
Oh, I think the stream's down.
No, it's not.
No,
Okay.
it's still up.
Looks up to me.
Okay.
We didn't get any notification that the guy with the head, frustration thing. You'll know it when you see it.
Or me screaming violently. One of those two things will happen.
But yes, voice acting is expensive.
Depends on how high you're going for in terms of voice acting.
Fair.
Like,
Ethical voice acting is expensive.
Yeah. Like if you get your friends or the janitor to do it, it's not that expensive.
Hey, my internet went out for like 10 seconds.
All right. Yeah, we were just discussing voice acting.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
okay, it was on your end. Okay, so we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose on the subject of voice acting, are you reaching out to get professional talent or?
Yes. There's nothing that bothers me more in a game than bad voice acting. I'd rather have no voice acting. Because at least what's in your mind, how the character sounds, is a bit better than like if I don't know, there's someone who you can't really hear or they just don't sound very good. Which
I mean, sometimes camp can be fun, but yeah, I get you. There's a difference between camp and just bad.
Yeah, and honestly, so the one voice actor we have right now is Gianni Matrigano, just like basically every other game.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, there's a reason for that. That dude is he's very professional. He's fun to hang out with. Like that voice recording session was actually pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
Good guy, and also was not heinously expensive. Like
I was about to say, he's the indie version of Steve Bloom.
Yeah.
Nolan North, or a few other guys.
Yeah, we can send him to like pick out the bits of the machinery, and he'll do it. It's great without any regards to his own health.
That's handy. Like,
but
anyway,
yeah. So we do plan on adding more voice acting and more actual characters. First episode is meant to be you're basically the only person around, and part of the character arc is finally running into people in episode 2 and actually trying to care about them. Because at this point, Noah's seen like multiple planets just dead, and it's like, oh, just some other colony that's going through an apocalypse. I guess they're just gonna have to restart.
I suppose that begs the question. When you do meet other people, will you be able to, shoot them and kill them?
Currently, our plans are no. So we're not going to do branching story paths where, like, oh, this is the one where Noah went nuts and killed everyone, and then just resumed. For combat mechanic purposes, you can't damage allies because there will be friendlies in combat, and in order to avoid any annoyance.
Oh God, yes.
You can't kill them. You don't have to keep them alive. They're literally just there for some extra firepower.
And I'm guessing like anybody story pertinent will be revived if needed.
Anyone story pertinent is probably not going to be in combat.
Yeah, there are 2 ways to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't pay too much attention to that.
To the man behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Like, duly noted.
Yeah, and they all definitely survive until the end and don't die horrifically. Wink.
Yeah. Looking over at the Gundam Seed box set, no one ever dies.
No one ever dies.
I don't know if people died in Gundam Seed.
Fair.
Like,
they just made a bigger impact than you'd expect because that series was obsessed with showing people popping into friggin' chunky salsa inside their spacesuits.
Huh.
All right, let's not get off track here.
Sorry for another podcast.
Yeah.
Anyway, in terms of your Omni device, now does that form all the weapons you use?
Yeah. So the axe you're holding, that's the deconstructing part. Noah's kind of fashioned it into a weapon of sorts. Things get constructed from your backpack. So, like, basically, Noah will reach behind him, construct a weapon in his hand, and then bring it up. And while you're bringing it up, it's constructing in your hand. So that's part of why you also don't have to reload. Is ammo is being built inside of the gun as you're firing. It's kind of a contrived way to not reload, but we didn't want reloading.
I mean, at least you gave a reason, which is more than some other shooters that are right to the triad can muster.
So, like, allies and enemies who use the same weapons do have to reload. So that'll be kind of more like apparent in the second episode.
Like, now, is the whole no reloading thing across all weapons, or just some weapons? Or is there going to be, like, one weapon where it has a reload function of it?
No, that's no reloads. It's just they'll have varying firing cooldown. So kind of like the charge shot, where there's a little bit of a buildup, and then when you fire it, it's cooling down for a while. For the Magnum.
Makes sense. And yeah, I suppose if you can go into a bit more detail about the actual guns you'll be using during the campaign.
Okay. Well, there's the 3 guns in episode 1, which is the Magnum, shotgun, and assault rifle. Pretty basic stuff.
Right.
Except we gave the we kind of tried to spice them up a bit by the Magnum fires like 50 cal. The shotgun is belt fed. The assault rifle is triple barreled. In episode 2, our current plans for new weapons include an energy crossbow that the cultists use. You hold down left mouse button to charge a shot. So you can tap it to fire rapidly, or hold it down to charge a shot that'll fly straighter. And the longer a projectile is in flight from that weapon, the more damage it'll do. So hitting things further away actually does more damage. Or arcing the shots does more damage.
Mm-hmm.
So if... Yeah.
Giving me flashbacks of Dusk there.
Kind of, yeah. Except it's like a charge weapon.
Right.
You hold down for like a variable, like strength. And then there's an autocannon. So the current weapon's called an autocannon. We might be changing that because you're getting an actual, like cannon weapon that will act as a rocket launcher. It's the only weapon you have that can actually damage you, so you have to be kind of careful with it. And the secondary fire for that is going to be a seismic charge that will break through certain rocks. Oh yeah, which is another thing about the crossbows. I forgot to mention it's alt fire. Still in process, but there's kind of a spirit mechanic with the energy cultists that you'll need to deal with. And the as of undetermined alt fire for the crossbow will need to deal with that in some way. Similarly with any environment interactivity stuff where there's a spirit barrier in your way, you have to kill it using the crossbow. Pile of debris in your way, you have to kill it using the alt fire for the autocannon. So we're keeping along with the kind of Metroidvania aspects of your weapons unlock new areas.
Now, along with that philosophy, are you looking to have movement power-ups?
Yes. One of the ones we have in mind right now is an augment to your dash that gives you invulnerability frames during it, which means you can dodge into attacks.
Going full power slave.
Yeah. There's going to be augments to abilities as well. Additional jumps or a hold down space to hover. If you dash while crouch sliding, you'll continually crouch slide until you let go of it. A la Vanquish.
I still need to play that. I have it. Just it's something I haven't gotten to yet.
It's a pretty fun one. You need to kind of invest enough time in it though to get good, so to speak, at the harder difficulties to get everything out of it.
Right. Now, are there any sort of power-ups? Like berserk mode, steroids, that kind of deal.
So I'm trying to think of things that aren't too spoilery. You will get the ability to summon initially just drones. So you can summon your own help. And then later on that gets way more involved in the story when you learn how to replicate human life.
Fun.
Yeah. And then that kind of
unlocking a Vita chip.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you start to summon the enemies you're fighting, and or yourself, and that opens up a whole can of worms, story-wise as well. The ending is kind of bonkers. It goes. I'm trying to think of something to compare it to without like giving it away. And I can't. So I'll just leave it at that.
Probably for the best then.
Yeah.
Anyway, and what about enemies? What kind of mooks and bosses are you fighting here?
Okay, so in episode 2, you get introduced to the Ardent Convergence cult, which are energy cultists who have learned how to convert life force into usable energy. So that cult is made up of a whole bunch of there's kind of neophytes who are fodder essentially. When they die, they create an energy mist, and stronger cultist enemies can use that for special abilities or to heal themselves in some cases. And our current plans for that faction is to be a whole lot of mini bosses as well, because there's like different. Now that you're dealing with like kind of people with personalities, we can go a lot more nuts with like what we do for bosses. And then there's also a lot of kind of abstract. They alter reality around them, so gravity stops working. The space between places gets really funky, so you're going to get non-Euclidean geometry.
Ooh, 6 degrees of freedom.
Yeah.
I do enjoy Descent to a point.
At least one of us do.
I said to a point. The point is when I get lost in the tunnels and I have no idea which way is up.
Yeah.
Mine is the motion sickness.
Yeah, that game hits you really hard if you got motion sickness.
Anyway, so how many levels are currently available in the current build of Relentless Frontier?
10, although we cheated slightly. One of the larger city maps, we had to split into 2 maps. Because otherwise it wouldn't load on Steam Decks, and some people were having trouble loading it on lower-end PCs. So we split it. It's actually kind of better for pacing now. And now we have 10 maps.
Now, is that like 10 maps total, or is that like 9 maps and a hidden level?
That's 10 maps total. We're likely going to add a hidden map to episode 1. Because the episode 1, as much as it pains me to say it, is mostly baked right now, but there's still more we can do to it. So we're working on shoring it up a whole bunch while we're developing the design doc for episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
So
that makes sense.
A bunch more data logs, a lot more environmental storytelling, a lot more places to explore in the city maps, which that was that was something I really wanted before we released, was like a whole more routes in the cities.
Mm-hmm.
And does I'm wondering if you can go into any detail about what you got planned for the secret level, because that's usually when the developers get creative, let's say.
Sure. So it's a one-to-one
creative,
recreation
throwing
of the
a bunch
first
of cows. Both are valid.
It's a one-to-one recreation of the first level of Mario. Come at me, Nintendo. No,
yes, don't say that.
It's nothing. It's a drone control center. And you go there to reprogram all of the drones to make them friendly. So every drone in episode 1 past that point will be friendly to you and help you fight things. So it is it changes a mechanic, so that it's worthwhile to go to, but it's also very difficult because it's side content. So we can
right. It's the hidden level that's kind of expected. Hidden levels are usually either really hard or really bizarre, or a mixture of the two. or just kind of off the wall, looking at you once again, Rise of the Triad. That game is nuts.
Nuts might be the understatement of the week.
Yeah. That Kevin's fellow in the chat, he's one of our programmers.
Oh man.
Point at him and laugh. Ha 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 ha.
It'd be nice to the programmers.
Yeah, they're. I was talking about that with someone recently. That like, if a programmer does their job right, you hardly know they're there at all.
Oh, kind of like me.
Yeah, like it kind of it's unfortunate, sort of, because like, oh wow, the art looks cool. Wow, the things sound good, but like everything works as intentional.
Like that satellite that collided with God in Futurama. If you've done your job right, nobody will be able to tell you did anything at all.
Oh yeah, that's probably where I stole that from. But so yeah, they're frequently thankless from the public, but I'm extremely thankful for them, which is why the team has 3 programmers, because I suck at programming, and I wanted to shore up my weaknesses a lot.
Like, we can understand the philosophy. That's why this is a 3-man operation.
Yeah.
Like,
anyway, 3 programmers.
Yeah. So, I guess along those lines, how does the collaborative process between all of you work exactly?
We scream at each other, and whoever screams the loudest, their things go through.
So we have something in common.
No, it's we use Trello, and we make tasks on Trello. But anyone can add to the inbox for things that might need to be done. And then every week we have a production meeting where we go through the inbox, we assign tasks, and we go through what people have been assigned to see what the progress is. And I have on my own end, as a lead, I have a schedule of like how many weeks do we have to do specific things before we are expected to release an update on Steam, to time it with sales, because I'm trying to get the double whammy of like, oh, there's a content update and a sale, come play our game.
Yeah. Oh, look, winter is coming.
Yeah. Oh, suspicious.
Yeah.
I wonder what's going to happen in winter. Gee. So we have kind of a structure to meetings, and which then also just eventually devolves into everyone kind of talking casually, or we'll find a topic about the game to focus on for a while. But for me, as long as we're meeting certain production goals, we're good to do whatever.
Yeah. And
we're actually we're ahead of schedule right now on the score attack mode. It's like it's surprisingly close to being maybe not done. Like there's a few more things we want to add to it, but the first version of it is like surprisingly polished already. Like it looks good. It just needs sound effects.
And adding another layer onto the whole thing is, if I'm remembering correctly, this game is being published by Hellforge Studios.
Yep.
Run by friend of the show, Bridgeburn.
Yeah, that Bent Burner guy. What a dude.
Now, how did you meet up with him and his outfits?
In his Discord channel, I was posting progress shots over Lone Frontier, and then he DM'd me and was like, "Hey, are you interested in a publisher or joining the Hellforge?" And I was like, "Okay."
Again, that was far simpler than I was expecting.
Yeah, it was pretty casual, honestly. So the reason why we accepted pretty quick is we weren't looking for a heavily involved publisher that was also going to take like most of the profits and have direct say in our game. The way Hellforge has worked for us as a publisher is they help with marketing, they'll help with trailers and stuff like that. They'll help us find talent if we need to. And everyone else who's in Hellforge, we kind of communicate like, oh, this is problems that our project has gone through. Do you guys have any suggestions? Or so it's been kind of a resource of help.
Just do it better. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Most of the people in Hellforge are working with GZ Doom, which means a lot of us have gone through like the same issues and found solutions. So, for me personally, that's been most of why I like Hellforge. Is I could just go there and ask questions or like present things. Like, hey, this is a problem we had. Here's how we fixed it. Stop other people from doing work. Also, several other we have people from other projects working on Relentless Frontier now. Sonia, who is the lead for Project Absentia, is an auxiliary and engine programmer for us. She's been making a Relentless Frontier version of Griddle, which is the kind of the custom fork that like I also help with their projects. I'm the lead mapper for Project Absentia. I'm a producer and sound designer for Hellslinger. So.
Yeah, I think this came up when we had Bridge Runner on the program. It was a while ago, admittedly. But I do remember these details coming up.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That means we've got our stories straight.
Yeah.
No one can tell the
lie. I suppose that's one way of looking at it. Anyway, trying to get it back on track here, but it was one of those things that made me lose my train of thought. Like, oh, right. Yeah. You mentioned the early access period is going to be like another 1 to 2 years.
Yeah.
Now, is the price going to stay the same until 1.0 release, or are we going to see a jump when another episode gets released?
Truth be told, we do plan on increasing the price when 1.0 comes out. The way Steam works, we're probably going to have to increase the price maybe 2 weeks before. So another Hellforge game, Extranium, released in 1.0 recently, and they had a few troubles with trying to increase their price and introduce a launch sale at the same time. Apparently Steam just doesn't let you do that. So we ended up just doing it'll stay like the early access price for a few more, for like a couple of weeks, and that's kind of the sale. But if people don't see the green label that it's on sale, it doesn't have the same effect.
Yeah.
So we are going to swindle and scam all of our player base. No, we're going to do the price increase probably like a couple weeks before 1.0 comes out. I believe Sulaco. Actually, no. Sulaco has similar plans, I think. Don't quote me on that though. I remember seeing somewhere that they had kind of similar plans, but so increase like maybe 2 weeks before, and then at launch we do a launch discount that brings it back down to $15. And then people will be like, wow, a 25% off sale. I got to get me some of that.
So it sounds like the price will increase to 20 then.
Yeah, very likely.
Okay.
But by that point, we'll have more than double the content it has right now. Because we're talking about much larger... like, there's way more levels planned in the future than there are in the game currently, with extra game modes. So we feel it's fairly justified to increase it by $5 by that point. Also, as kind of a reward for anyone who gets on early, you got it for cheaper.
Yeah.
Right. Going back to the extra game modes, are there any you got planned that you haven't mentioned yet? Or more specifically, I want to ask if you have a co-op mode planned for the game.
Multiplayer would be nice, but GZ Doom's netcode is kind of a nightmare. I'm assuming you've had experience with GZ Doom's netcode.
Yes.
Come up.
You desync at the drop of a hat, and
I think a butterfly flaps its wings and you desync.
Yeah, and in order to you can't just reconnect. You have to restart the game. So we actually played through a couple of maps on Relentless Frontier in co-op. Me, the programmer Steven, and one of our friends. And we were like, this is kind of working. And then very suddenly it wasn't, and we couldn't figure out what was happening, and it was like, oh, everyone was desynced. So people are on different people are on different maps, but whenever someone triggers a map transition, it'll teleport people to the beginning of their own map.
Oh god, yep.
Which is just super weird.
Mm.
So that would be another thing, is the way we have level transitions wouldn't work for co-op.
Oh my
anyway.
god, yeah, just as you said, I was like, oh no. Oh yeah. No.
So if we're doing player sprites right now, just in case we can do co-op, and for mirrors and stuff like that. We would like to, and we're kind of keeping a close eye on the netcode. If any major improvements happen, we're very down to do so. Although it's very likely that the horde mode is what would be co-op, because we can end the map at the same time. We can implement game mechanics for a co-op mode on that, where it's like, oh, there's finite lives, and people will be kind of waiting around to respawn until you get enough points for an extra life, and then the next person in queue can hop back in.
I suppose I should ask a bit further on co-op, local co-op, local multiplayer. Do you ever test anything in that direction?
So we used Hamachi to play the multiplayer that we did, and we had to direct connect through a command line to each other, which
flashback to my Terraria days.
Yeah, most players aren't going to be willing to do that, and we're not considering that very viable at the moment. So it would also involve making a launcher or a custom multiplayer menu. One thing that we do plan on doing, though, almost kind of regardless, is handing over a lot of our assets to. Have you guys heard of Insanity Deathmatch for Zandronum?
The name sounds vaguely familiar, but I'm drawing most of a blank on that.
Okay,
yeah, same.
It's a deathmatch mod that some Hellforge games have made it into. So it's like there's characters and weapons from those games in it.
So kind of like the Smash Bros of FPS?
Yeah. Because Zandronum actually has proper netcode. It's just very far behind on what programming languages we can use and features. So a lot of what we do right now...
Are you insane?
Yeah, they have decorate instead of Z-script. Z-script is very handy. Contract renegotiation if you're putting multiplayer in the game. If we put multiplayer in the game, I'm going to get someone specialized in netcode to do that.
I like how we're just doing feature creep in the middle of our show again.
Okay, so all of this stuff is placed in a... unless something changes, we're not doing it. But if some kind of revolutionary release happens in GZ Doom that's like, wow... perfect netcode, and you can join in the middle of a session and all the architecture to support it, and there's
both computers won't explode. Holy crap.
That might make us scratch our chins and be like, But otherwise, actual game plan is finish a single player campaign and those 2 game modes, and then move on to the next game, because we're also on year 4 of developing this game.
Yeah.
And it's going to be year 6 by the time we get 1.0 out.
It's been great talking to you, but I need to dip so I can get to work.
Oh, okay, yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Peace.
I'm looks interesting, though.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, we're not going to be too much longer here anyway. So,
okay.
Anyway, catch you later.
Oh, I don't have to leave.
No.
Gollets.
Okay. But so yeah, we've shoot. I lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
Oops.
Sorry about that.
That's fine.
Yeah. Talking about GZ Doom and multiplayer. Yeah.
Yes.
How that's not a good combination.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving beyond that, how active has the community been in providing feedback during this early access period?
So a lot of our testing feedback comes from Hellforge Studios. One of the things that they've done is kind of provide a place to get testers. So that's what's helped us knock out most of the technical bugs before a release. As far as after release, it's a lot of people saying, "Wow, I like your game," or "I can't get my controller to work." And it's like, oh, I went into the game and I'm spinning around rapidly, and it's like, oh, unplug your controller or disable it in the options. Oh, okay.
Ooh, I guess on the subject of controller, does this game support controller assist and stuff like that?
Right now, you can use a controller to play the game. We don't officially have controller support yet. That's one of the things we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
Which that involves having a highlight on each menu option, making sure everything is accessible with a controller.
Yeah.
Making sure the game pauses if your controller is unplugged. So a lot of that is compliance that we have to do in order to say the game is controller accessible on Steam.
Have they ever fixed controller support in DayZ's Doom yet? Because I remember for a while it was haha no.
Yeah, there's some funkiness. So we have our own branch, so we're able to tweak a lot of that stuff ourselves. And that's definitely one of the goals, is to make sure that
fair.
Right now we have a aim assist in the game, which we got the help of. I feel bad that I can't remember their name, but they made an aim assist that they're fine with anyone putting in any projects or mods or games, and it's a really solid one where if your crosshair goes next to an enemy, it kind of hovers towards that enemy. It either snaps or it slowly hovers towards it. It's customizable. So that's you can kind of mess with it to get something that feels good.
So you have a gradient other than just, ooh, bad guy.
Yeah.
Like a chihuahua.
Yeah, and it works way better than the normal auto-aim, where it doesn't actually move your crosshair, it just kind of sends some of the pellets that way. Mm-hmm. Or some of the attacks that way, which is unreliable. Whereas this one has but it's both enemies that are next to your crosshair and also enemies that are closer or further away to you. So enemies that are closer to you are also kind of prioritized, so it's not going to try to aim to the guy just above the melee enemy you're trying to shoot. Who's a mile in the distance.
Anyway, so switching tracks here to a category that we haven't talked about yet. That's the music. How are you going about in filling this game with, a soundtrack?
The sick
So we have 3 composers. 2 of them work on a team. That's James Paddock, or Jimmy, and Velvetic are working together in a group called Malifors. Jimmy composes via MIDI, and then Velvetic remasters into and rearranges into something a bit more modern sounding. Because originally we were just going to do MIDIs for this, and Jimmy's MIDIs are pretty good, in my humble opinion.
Now, is there an option to get the regular MIDIs for people who have a Roland and want the authentic 90s style sound, or?
When we sell the soundtrack, it's going to include the midis. Also, the game files just include the midis too, so you can kind of manually play them. Right now, we don't have
for
any.
A lot of FPS buffs, that is a thing that they very much like.
Yeah,
especially if they have the roll-in setup and whatnot.
So the rough part of that is we only have midis for like the first half of the episode. The second half was largely composed by Primeval or Primavius. He was in the chat right now, I think. Prime. So with he doesn't do MIDI first. He goes right to the arrangement.
Fair.
So we'd only have half the episode with MIDIs. Because that was also one of our original plans. Was like going between.
Unfortunate.
I guess it depends on the setup. There are some people that'd be unfortunate. Some people who are like, that's cool.
They'll go from like a MIDI tune to like suddenly this like kind of orchestral thing, this bombastic like. It's like whoa. I mean, we might be able to still work that in. I think we can do that in the CVAR, whatever. It's one of those things where if enough people ask for it, we'll put it in.
Right.
Otherwise, it's kind of it's just in the maybe column.
Anyway, so we are running low on time here, so I think I'm going to wrap up by asking this question. Maybe not now, but when the game is finished, have you given any kind of consideration to bringing this to the consoles?
We cannot with Cheesy Doom.
Yeah, I was about to say Cheesy Doom. No.
No, there's no porting, and also the Open GPL license forbids it. It's a similar reason why getting like Steam achievements is really tricky. Is normally you have to have some kind of Steam integration, or the Steam backend has to be integrated in your game, and GPL does not let you do that. It has to be anything you include with your game, other than the assets, or for the engine, has to be something that's open source. And Steam's backend is not open source. Sulaco gets around it by like having a batch file that runs in the background. I think that
it basically
will like
tells the Steam backend, "Hey, you've done this. Give them this."
Yeah, and I'm not sure if legally that works. It has so far, but we're basically going to wait several years to see if anyone comes out of the woodwork to try to sue them or something.
Yeah.
But honestly,
I personally don't see why it would be a problem, but I'm also not a legal expert nor a full-on programmer, so...
Yeah, like actual practicality-wise, it doesn't hurt anyone.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you just don't want to be the first ones to find out, so to speak. Anyway, so yeah, I think we've run through my gamut of questions. Petty, do you have anything further?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, cool.
All right. Korzdin, it was lovely having you on the program, and I'm glad we were finally able to talk about your game.
Yay!
It's showing potential so far, and we look forward to seeing how it develops over the next couple of years. So, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can still hear you. Can you still hear me? I kind of leaned back a bit, stretching.
Yeah, I can hear both you guys, so we're still good.
Okay.
Just had to make sure. Anyway, so the game is Relentless Frontier. It is currently available in early access on Steam. Be sure to go and
buy 30 copies of it.
Buy it for you, buy it for your friends.
Wishlist it. I suppose, is there a demo for it?
Yes, there is a demo. There's a free demo. That's the first 4 levels.
All right. So you can try before you buy. So, be sure to pick it up today. So, yeah, that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments Silicon. And we'll catch you on the Sunday reviews.
Thanks for having me.
Petty, play us out.